What if the biggest threat to your bank account is not what you think it is? It's not inflation, it's not the stock market. It's a 200 years old lie. A single stubborn myth from the 19th century that political leaders are still using today to sell you on trade wars. And no, this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's a well-documented political playbook. Today we're pulling back the curtains to show you how this one idea is still justifying destructive economic policies that hurt you, your country, and the global economy. It seems like everywhere you look, walls are going up. We are living in an age of escalating trade wars. Just in the last few years, we've seen massive new taxes called tariffs slapped on goods worth billions of dollars. Everything from cars and steel to washing machines and solar panels. The United States and China are locked into an economic slugfest that has sent tremors around the entire globe. And the sales pitch is always the same. We're told it's about getting tough, protecting our jobs, and putting America first. Politicians stand on podiums and sell us a simple story. To be strong, a nation has to be self-sufficient. They frame global trade as a winner-take-all brawl, where if one country is losing, it means another one is winning. They wrap these policies in the flag, using patriotism and national security as an excuse for these tariffs. But let's be clear about who pays these tariffs. You do, the consumer. And it works because it's a powerful narrative. It plays on our real anxieties about the economy and our desire for national pride. But this story, this excuse for building walls, is not something new. It's a carefully crafted myth with roots stretching back 2 centuries. And to see why it's so dangerous now, we have to understand where it all started. Let's rewind to the 19th century, a time of explosive change. The Industrial Revolution was tearing through the world, but not evenly. Great Britain was the undisputed factory of the world, while other countries like a young United States and a newly formed Germany were struggling to keep up. For both of these two rising nations, Great Britain's power was both impressive and threatening. Enter Friedrich List, a German economist. List looked at the popular ideas of free trade thinkers like Adam Smith and said, hold on a second. He argued that free trade was a great deal for Britain because they were already the champions. For everyone else, he saw it as a trap, a one-way ticket to become Britain's permanent economic junior varsity team. So List cooked up a powerful counter-argument, one that would become the blueprint for economic nationalism. He said that for a nation to build its own industries, it had to protect its infant industries. His solution? Protective tariffs. By taxing imported goods, a country makes foreign goods more expensive. This gives its own companies the time they need to grow, to innovate, without being steamrolled by cheaper, more powerful competitors. He even called it an Erziehungszoll, a temporary investment in the country's future. Now, this wasn't a totally new idea. In the US, figures like Alexander Hamilton had argued for similar measures decades earlier. But Hamilton proposed moderate tariffs paired with subsidies, largely for revenue and to give fledgling American industries a fair shot. List was the one who packaged it, popularized it, and gave it the harder nationalist framing that swept across the world. And on the surface, it sounds pretty smart. What nation doesn't want to be strong? And just like that, the myth was born. The belief that trade barriers are the road to wealth, and that economic isolation is a sign of strength. It was a story of national destiny. The only problem is that once you start looking at the facts, it starts falling apart. The core promise of this 200-year-old myth is that protectionism creates jobs and makes countries rich. But history tells a much darker story. The most infamous cautionary tale is that of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 in the United States. Passed right after the Great Depression was sinking its teeth into the world, the act jacked up tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods. The goal, they said, was to shield American farmers and businesses from foreign competition. The result was an absolute catastrophe. While not the sole cause of the Great Depression, which was driven by factors like bank failures and monetary contraction, the Smoot-Hawley tariff is widely blamed for drastically worsening it. Instead of protecting the US economy, the Smoot-Hawley Act kicked off a global trade war. Other countries almost immediately hit back with their own retaliatory tariffs. Global trade didn't just slow down, it collapsed, falling by 65% and pushing the world deeper into economic misery. This didn't save jobs, it evaporated them. Now, fast forward to the end of World War II. The world's leaders, having learned their lesson from Smoot-Hawley, tried the exact opposite. They built a new system designed to lower trade barriers, creating institutions like the World Trade Organization. This shift towards global cooperation unleashed an era of unprecedented growth and prosperity, lifting about 1 billion people out of extreme poverty since 1990 alone. And guess what? Our recent experiments with trade wars only confirm what history has taught us. Study after study on recent trade wars show that the country imposing the tariff pays the price. One analysis from the Peterson Institute for International Economics found that the steel tariffs cost the US consumers around $900,000 for every job they created. A Yale study found that the recent tariff cost the average American household thousands of dollars in higher prices. Think about your phone, your shoes, your car. Tariffs make all of these things more expensive. But what about jobs? The promise of bringing back manufacturing almost never plays out. A few protected industries might see tiny gains, but those are almost always wiped out by job losses everywhere else. Companies that need imported parts get slammed by higher costs. Farmers get locked out of foreign markets when other countries retaliate. The net result is almost always fewer jobs and a weaker economy. The myth that protectionism is some kind of magic wand for the economy is just that, a myth. It sounds great on a teleprompter, but it crumbles under the weight of reality. So, if the evidence is so overwhelmingly clear, why does this 200-year-old idea still have such a death grip on politics? The answer is brutally simple. It works. Politically, that is. In times of economic anxiety, when people feel left behind, the siren song of economic nationalism is an extremely effective way to gain votes. It offers a simple story with a simple villain. It is all the fault of unfair foreign competition. And it offers a simple solution. Build the wall, tax the goods. It lets a leader look like the protector of the little guy, fighting against shadowy outside forces. This story works because it taps into real frustrations. But instead of tackling the complex domestic problems that are often the real source of the pain, it redirects all that anger towards people in other countries. It's the oldest political trick in the book, misdirection. We see this playbook running on a loop today. The rhetoric behind Brexit, the US-China trade war, and the rise of nationalist parties across the globe all drink from the same poisoned well. They use these old myths to sell policies that the evidence says that will hurt the people that they claim to be protecting. They sell a fantasy of strength through isolation, at the exact same moment that the world has become more interconnected than ever. Tearing up those connections doesn't make you strong. It injects chaos into the system, raises costs for everyone, and makes the world a more dangerous place. So how do you fight a 200-year-old lie? With the one thing that manipulative stories can't stand: the truth. The solution is to understand the gap between the political sales pitch and the economic reality. The reality is that trade isn't a battle to the death. Global cooperation has fueled innovation and has lifted about 1 billion people out of poverty since 1990. The reality is that tariffs are just taxes paid by the country's own businesses and consumers, not by foreign nations. And the reality is that the policies sold under economic patriotism have a long and ugly track record of leading to instability, higher prices, and lost jobs. When we understand the real history and the real economics, we take away the myth's power. We can see past the patriotic slogans and see the policies for what they really are. A political game that gambles with our financial well-being. We can demand policies based on evidence, not a tired, destructive myth. History has screamed the lesson to us time and again. Building walls leads to decay. Building bridges leads to prosperity. The choice is ours, but we have to make it with our eyes open. If this breakdown made sense to you, then please share it. The best way to disarm a harmful myth is to spread the truth. Subscribe for more deep dives into the myths that shape our world. Please let me know in the comments what myths you think are worth addressing. Thank you for watching.